Mom, look at this. If we don't do something, we'll get caught up in something we can't escape. We need to leave right now. That was the day I went to celebrate my sister Olivia's third child. She already had a son, Nathan, and a daughter, Rose, but Nathan had passed away, and Rose was battling an illness. So when I heard she had given birth to a third child, I wanted to celebrate with hope that this time the child would grow up healthy. However, the moment I arrived at the hospital where Olivia was staying, everything took a sudden and dramatic turn. My 15-year-old daughter, Chloe, suddenly pulled me outside, looking frantic, and said those words. Trying to calm her down, I took the bundle of photos she handed me. Deep down, I had always suspected something, but I wanted to believe in Olivia, my family. But now I couldn't deny the truth anymore. After seeing the photos and a letter, I understood everything. I took Chloe and ran. At the same time, I swore to make Olivia pay for what she had done. The story goes back 10 years, to a time when we knew nothing, and Olivia's children were still happy. My name is Lily, and I live a modest but fulfilling life as a single mother with my daughter, Chloe. My husband, Henry, passed away in an accident shortly after Chloe was born, leaving me to raise her on my own. One of the greatest sources of support during that time was my sister Olivia's husband, James. Olivia and James had two children, Nathan, who was 10 years older than Chloe, and Rose, who was the same age as Chloe. Despite raising their own kids, they were incredibly supportive in helping me raise Chloe. James treated Nathan, Rose, and Chloe equally, showering them all with love. And Chloe, Nathan, and Rose got along like true siblings. Those were truly happy days. I'm the big brother, so I'll always protect Rose and Chloe. Then we'll promise to help you when you need us, Nathan. That's our pact. We'll always look out for each other, no matter what. I believed that their beautiful bond would last forever. The only concern I ever had back then was Olivia. I can't believe the three of them always look so shabby. It's embarrassing. At least my kids should wear something nice. Otherwise, my friends will think we're poor too. It's so frustrating. Olivia, always dressed in high-end brands, would say things like that. She had been a compulsive spender since childhood, to the point where even our once indulgent parents eventually gave up on her. They grew distant, nearly cutting ties altogether. After marrying James, Olivia continued her extravagant lifestyle, using their shared finances recklessly. James often tried to confront her about it, but his efforts were in vain. You have no right to criticize Chloe's clothes. Lily works hard to save money and teaches her child not to be spoiled. Nathan and Rose can't have better clothes because you blow all our money on designer brands instead of spending it on them. Even such harsh words couldn't get through to Olivia. Instead, they only seemed to make her furious. What's wrong with you, treating me like the villain here? You're such a terrible husband. Who's to blame for this situation anyway? It's because you never make enough money. That's why I have to dip into our household funds whenever I want to enjoy some luxuries. If Nathan and Rose can't have fancy clothes, that's on you. If you don't like it, then earn more money so I can relax and enjoy a life of luxury. Until then, they will just have to deal with it. It's unfortunate, but it's your fault, not mine. And don't forget, I'm the mom. Kids are supposed to listen to what mom says. No matter what James or I said, Olivia would twist the narrative with outrageous excuses. She would become hysterical, firing back with rapid, almost incomprehensible retorts, making it impossible to reason with her. In the end, Olivia always landed on the same point. If James made more money, the kids could live in luxury. This is all his fault. The concept of budgeting or saving was entirely absent from her mindset. James, on the other hand, worked diligently every day. He had received raises and even promotions. But no matter how much his income increased, Olivia's spending only grew more extravagant. Nathan and Rose never benefited from it. It was absurdly clear how selfish her reasoning was. One day, I asked James, "How do you keep going in this marriage? Doesn't it wear you down?" James admitted it was difficult, but added, "If I keep talking to her and don't give up, maybe one day she'll understand. Olivia has her flaws, but she's still the only woman I've ever loved, and I won't stop trying." Hearing the genuine sincerity in his voice, I decided not to argue further. I didn't want to hurt his resolve or dismiss his feelings. Even now, I deeply regret choosing not to say more. At that moment, one day, she'll understand. His hopes were in vain. Olivia's spending only worsened. The breaking point came when Nathan got accepted into college. We were all celebrating. Chloe, Rose, James, and I were filled with joy for him. Then disaster struck. This doesn't make sense. Where is it? The college funds are gone. Without it, Nathan can't start school. We might need to call the police. It could be theft. The college savings had vanished. The celebration quickly turned into chaos as we scrambled to make sense of the situation. "Are you sure it's missing? Could it have been misplaced?" "That's impossible. I put it in this drawer. We need to report this to the police right away." "The police? Don't you think that's a bit excessive?" Olivia's reaction shocked us. "What are you talking about? This isn't excessive. Someone could have broken in. And if it was a thief, do you really think the money will come back once they're caught? That's not the point. This is for Nathan's tuition and enrollment fees. If we don't pay on time, he'll lose his spot. There's no use crying over spilled milk. For Nathan's sake, why not just take out a student loan? That way, you can move on and not stress about it." Olivia's reckless suggestion left us stunned, but we didn't have time to argue. We focused on finding the culprit. Looking back, I wish we had pushed harder to get answers, but at the time, we were overwhelmed. None of us wanted to believe Olivia could be capable of anything truly awful. We dismissed her comments as just another instance of her cold, irresponsible attitude and continued searching. The police found no leads, no suspicious fingerprints, no clues. Time kept slipping away. Nathan's college start date was approaching. We couldn't risk missing the tuition deadline, so we decided to take out a loan. "I'm sorry. It's my fault for needing to go to college. I'll make sure to pay back the loan myself." Nathan was heartbroken, blaming himself for something that wasn't his fault. As I had expected, Olivia declared herself vindicated. "You see, all that effort you put in for Nathan was pointless. A shallow sense of justice doesn't magically create money. That's why James can't get proper promotions or raises, and why Lily remains a pathetic single mother barely scraping by. Maybe now you'll learn to focus on what really matters, like making money, just like me." Her cruel words filled me with a surge of anger. I could tolerate her insults toward me, but hearing her mock me as a single mother felt like an attack on the memory of Henry, my late husband. I couldn't forgive that. Yet no matter how much I wanted to confront her, reasoning with her was impossible. That was something only a family could truly understand. When I found myself unable to say anything, it was Nathan who raised his voice. "Enough, Mom. Everyone has worked so hard for me, and all you've done is insult them. Don't you feel even a little ashamed? I never realized you could be this cold and unreasonable. I thought you might be a bit out of touch sometimes, but I never imagined you could say such horrible things to your own family." You keep blaming Dad for not earning enough, but he's always worked hard and earned plenty. It's you who's wasting it all. And Lily being a single mom. That's because of a tragic accident. And you know it. How could you use that against her? That's just despicable, Mom. You don't care about this family at all, do you? Well, guess what I've decided? I'll never repay you for what you've done. When I start earning money, none of it is going to you. I refuse to let you waste what I work for. I hate you, Mom. Olivia stood stunned for a moment before flying into a hysterical rage, screaming that Nathan was ungrateful and cruel. What exactly she said after that, I can't even remember. When the shouting finally stopped and Olivia stormed out, Nathan turned to us and apologized unexpectedly. I'm so sorry. Mom said awful things to you and Chloe. It must have been so painful. I meant what I said. I hate her for this. But even so, she's still my mom. I don't think I can ever really leave her. I just hope this makes her change. All we could do was try to comfort Nathan in his sadness. I often wonder what might have happened if we had found the courage to leave Olivia as a family. Even now, I can't stop thinking about it. Everyone thought the ordeal with Nathan's missing tuition money had ended, albeit vaguely. But in reality, it was just the beginning of endless hardships. Years passed after the incident, and I had almost forgotten about it. Then one day, out of nowhere, a shocking revelation came to light. It was during dinner when James suddenly grew serious, looking directly at Olivia. Olivia, you're my wife, and I care about you deeply. That's why I need to ask you something. James's voice was steady, but Olivia responded with her usual flippant tone. What now? This is weird. If you've got something to say, just spit it out. But if it's about cutting back on spending, forget it. I'm only with you so I can live comfortably without working. Don't even think about telling me to limit myself. Even at this critical moment, Olivia's focus remained on money, and her indifference irritated both James and me. Nathan looked ready to explode but stopped himself when James signaled him to wait. Olivia, I've long accepted your obsession with money and luxury. That's not what this is about. I need to know one thing, and I want you to be honest. Are you hiding anything from us? Have you done anything behind our backs, something you're not proud of? This isn't about spending. I'm talking about something truly wrong. I need to hear you say it clearly, looking me in the eye. Please, Olivia, don't lie to me. James's gaze was firm, full of a desperate hope that she might come clean. But Olivia didn't care. What are you talking about? Of course not. How dare you accuse me of such things? You're such a pathetic husband, making your wife feel this uncomfortable. If you've got this much time to waste, maybe you should spend it earning more money. That's your only job, to provide for me and let me live in luxury. Now drop it. Dinner's getting cold, and if it tastes bad because it's cold, that's on you. Are you going to compensate for that? Predictably, Olivia deflected, lashed out, and spiraled into one of her hysterical tantrums. James looked more heartbroken than I had ever seen him. He seemed ready to press further, but Olivia's shouting escalated into relentless insults. James stayed quiet, enduring her abuse until her energy waned. Then, without a word, he stood up and retrieved an envelope. I would have been so grateful if you'd told the truth before I had to bring this out, but you didn't. You denied everything and insulted me, just like always. Now I have no choice. James opened the envelope, revealing a stack of papers labeled Investigation Report. I didn't know what it was about, but Olivia's expression changed drastically. Her smug demeanor disappeared, and her face turned pale. James fixed his gaze on her and spoke. Do you remember when Nathan's college funds went missing? We all searched desperately, and in the end, we had to take out loans to cover it. I've never stopped wondering what happened. Quietly, I kept investigating. I even hired a private investigator. I suspected you all along, Olivia. I pretended to let it go, but I never did. And now I have proof. It was you, wasn't it? James shouted at Olivia, his face filled with anger, but tears streamed down his cheeks. The sadness of being betrayed by the woman he loved the most seemed to overwhelm him. His eyes pleaded with Olivia, desperately searching for a trace of remorse or regret. But Olivia's demeanor didn't soften, in fact, it worsened. She glared at James and the rest of us with fiery resentment. Chloe and Rose, unable to withstand the tension, began to shrink back in fear. Yet Olivia showed no mercy. Instead, she spoke with sharp, cutting words. Yes, it was me. I used the money. Are you satisfied now? I wanted more luxury, and I took it. This is all your fault, James. If you earned more, I wouldn't have to resort to this. And Lily, if you brought in more money, I'd have even more to spend. Nathan, Rose, and Chloe are to blame too. They cost too much. I'm their mom. I can use their money if I want. You're also selfish, blaming me for everything. What am I supposed to look forward to in life if I can't enjoy myself? And then, Olivia, unbelievably, played the victim and lashed out in anger. Nathan and I tried to calm Chloe and Lily, who were visibly shaken. It was becoming clear that there was no reasoning with Olivia anymore. That's when James finally delivered an ultimatum. If you're this unhappy with the family, then I guess there's no other choice. Let's get a divorce. James's voice trembled as he said the words. It was clear how much he loved her. He had held on to the hope that she would eventually understand, even when gently suggesting divorce in the past. His feelings for her had been genuine all along. Even Olivia seemed to be caught completely off guard. She stared at James, shocked, with an expression none of us had ever seen before. James, having resolved himself, continued speaking. I've always cared about you and done everything I could for you. I worked hard to give you the luxuries you wanted, but if our values are this different, I don't see how we can go on. Let's divorce. Honestly, I could demand compensation for the tuition money you took, but I won't. I just want us to part ways without fighting. You'd probably be happier finding someone richer to marry anyway. Maybe we were never meant to be. I can't forgive what you did to Nathan, but I am sorry for the struggles you faced. I apologize for that. No one thought James was being weak or too soft. Everyone understood the depth of his feelings. But Olivia was different. Everyone expected her to erupt in anger, as always, dismissing James's heartfelt words. Yet, her reaction was entirely unexpected. I'm truly sorry, but please, James, reconsider the divorce. I'm begging you. At first, we thought this was just another ploy, a way to cling to James because she didn't have a new source of wealth lined up. However, the words that came out of Olivia's mouth felt entirely different, genuine, and uncharacteristically sincere. It's not about that. I finally realized something. I truly love you, James. Yes, I've always wanted a life of luxury. But if it means being separated from you and the family, I'd rather give up the luxuries and stay together. Please, reconsider the divorce. I'll do whatever you ask. I'll change. I'll make amends for what I've done. James, I'm so sorry for everything. Nathan, Rose, Lily, Chloe, I've wronged you all so deeply. I know it's selfish to ask for forgiveness, but at least let me apologize. Naturally, none of us could believe Olivia's words right away. Her actions had been far too damaging for us to trust her sincerity, but she kept apologizing, over and over, with a determination and humility we had never seen before. Seeing her earnest regret, even I started to believe that this wasn't just another manipulative act. What do we do about Mom? Is she really serious about apologizing? Nathan asked hesitantly. I'm not sure, I replied. She doesn't seem to be lying. But what do we do? Even Nathan and Rose, who had the most reason to resent Olivia, were visibly shaken by her uncharacteristic demeanor. Chloe, too, seemed conflicted. Could Olivia really mean what she's saying? If she does, it wouldn't feel right to dismiss it as a lie without hearing her out. But can we trust her? What should we do? After a long discussion, we decided that James would take full control of Olivia's spending for 6 months. They also made a pact. Olivia would avoid any extravagant expenses, and if she broke that promise, the divorce would proceed without question. Surprisingly, Olivia didn't resist. She seemed genuinely afraid of losing James. What happened next shocked us all. Olivia not only accepted James's control over her finances without complaint, but she also maintained her newfound restraint even after the 6 months ended. She stopped spending excessively and began treating the children with kindness. She even softened her attitude toward Chloe and me, sometimes playing with Chloe in ways that showed a warmth we'd never seen before. For the first time in years, it felt like peace was possible. We dared to hope, but in hindsight, that hope was naive. If only we had seen through Olivia's true nature back then, perhaps we could have prevented the tragedies that followed. But because we failed to act, we would come to live through nightmare-like days, brought on by Olivia's maliciousness. The first sign of trouble appeared with Nathan. We thought he was enjoying his time at college, but that illusion shattered quickly. I'm really sorry, Dad. I've been skipping classes a lot lately. You went through so much trouble taking out loans to send me to college, but at this rate, I won't even earn my credits. I might get expelled. Nathan's health started to deteriorate day by day, and he spent more time bedridden, unable to attend classes. Your health isn't something you can control. Nathan, this isn't your fault. Don't blame yourself, just rest and take it easy. We're family, and we'll always have your back. Don't worry about anything else. That's right, Olivia added. The loans were my fault to begin with, so please don't blame yourself. I made some soup for you today. Have as much as you want, and get better soon. If there's anything else you'd like to eat, just tell me, and I'll make it for you. James and Olivia did everything they could to care for Nathan. Chloe and Rose tried to help in their own ways too, but nothing seemed to make a difference. Nathan's condition continued to worsen. His strong sense of responsibility made it even harder for him to bear the stress of feeling like a burden to his family and others around him, which only exacerbated his illness. Despite numerous tests at the hospital, the doctors couldn't determine a cause. Time slipped away relentlessly. Eventually, Nathan fell behind in his studies and had to take a leave of absence from college due to insufficient credits. With no classes to attend, Nathan seemed to lose his sense of purpose. His condition worsened until he was completely bedridden. Our family took turns caring for him, and even though Chloe and Rose had been told they didn't need to help, they started assisting after school. Whenever they cared for Nathan, he would say, "I told you I'd protect you, but here I am, useless. I can't do anything, and now I'm being taken care of by the very people I wanted to protect. It's so pathetic. I hate myself for this." Nathan always wore a sad expression, but Chloe and Rose continued to care for him with smiles on their faces. "We promise to support you, Nathan. Don't worry, we've got this." "That's right. You're important to us, Nathan, and that's why we're here to take care of you," they said, smiling as they helped. Their words seemed to be a great source of comfort for Nathan. He even found a new goal in life. It was something he often shared with Chloe and Rose. "I'll fight to get just a little better, so I can see you both graduate from elementary school and move on to middle school. I don't know if I'll make it to see you as high schoolers, but at least I'll stay long enough to see you in your middle school uniforms before I go." But even this modest dream was one Nathan couldn't fulfill. Just a week before Chloe and Rose's elementary school graduation, Nathan's condition suddenly took a turn for the worse. He was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, but the situation was dire. James spoke to us after the doctor explained Nathan's condition. His expression was utterly defeated, and I'll never forget the look on his face. "They said tonight is critical. Surviving this is almost impossible. He hasn't shown any signs of regaining consciousness. I'm so sorry. If I had been better, if I had done more, maybe this wouldn't have happened." And now, Nathan won't even get to see Rose and Chloe graduate. How did it come to this? Our entire family broke down in tears, and even Olivia reacted the same way. At that moment, I truly believed she loved her children just as much as the rest of us did. I didn't doubt her sincerity for a second. The next day, Nathan passed away. In the end, we never found out the cause of his death. The only thing the doctors could confirm was that his internal organs had been pushed beyond their limits. Why it happened remained a mystery as we said goodbye. The funeral was a small family affair, quiet and intimate. Chloe and Rose cried non-stop. They were devastated that they couldn't show Nathan their uniforms, something he had looked forward to so much. Nathan's body was cremated and laid to rest in a grave. But this marked the beginning of even greater turmoil for our family. "I understand how you feel, Olivia, but I really think this excessive spending has to stop. I'm sorry, I know you're right, but this is the only way I can think of to fill the hole in my heart." Olivia's compulsive spending habits returned with a vengeance. Given that she was trying to cope with the loss of Nathan, we found it hard to confront her. We simply let her do as she pleased. "Mom, you're even using Nathan's insurance money, aren't you? If you keep this up, Nathan wouldn't be happy about it. We need to find a way to stop her." Rose's words were true. Olivia had dipped into Nathan's insurance money, worsening her spending habits. We knew this couldn't continue, but understanding Olivia's grief made it difficult to take a firm stand. Her spending escalated, and she started going out more frequently. There were nights when she wouldn't even come home. Arguments became more common, but we had bigger issues to deal with. Rose had started falling ill more often. The pattern was eerily similar to what had happened to Nathan, and it terrified both James and me. We feared we might lose another precious member of our family. Olivia, meanwhile, began going out more frequently. Naturally, we criticized her for continuing to indulge in luxury outings during such a critical time. Each time we confronted her, Olivia flew into a hysterical rage. "I can't keep it together without this. I've been making soup for Rose and taking care of her in my own way. Can't you let me have a little freedom outside of that?" She rattled off her excuses so forcefully that we couldn't stop her. It only made the atmosphere in the house more tense. To be fair, Olivia was indeed preparing meals, doing housework, and caring for Rose when necessary. It made me wonder if we were being too harsh. But despite all our efforts, her condition continued to worsen. Every day felt like an uphill battle as we cared for her. Then one day, Rose's condition suddenly deteriorated, and she was rushed to the hospital. The doctors delivered devastating news. It might already be too late. Would Rose, like Nathan, leave us for heaven? Amid this crisis, a pivotal event occurred. Olivia became pregnant with James's child. Both James and I were shocked, but it seemed Olivia hadn't expected it either. I'm surprised too. When my period stopped, I thought it was just because of my age. I never imagined I could be pregnant, given Rose's precarious state. I had mixed feelings. Still, the prospect of a new child was a joyful one. James and I hoped that with the birth of their third child, Olivia might finally find a way to heal her broken heart and leave behind her life of reckless spending. And so, when I went to visit Olivia to celebrate the baby's birth, the story came full circle to the opening incident. Suddenly, Chloe came running toward me, frantic, holding a stack of photos and a letter. "Mom, this is serious. Look at this. If we don't act now, we'll all end up in serious danger. We have to leave immediately." I was confused, unable to grasp what Chloe was saying, but her urgency couldn't be ignored. I took the photos and letter to see what had upset her so much. What I saw left me speechless. What? If all this is true, then the reason Nathan and Rose. But with evidence like this, it can't be anything else, can it? The photos showed a scene in the kitchen, with what was unmistakably a toxic substance sitting on the counter. Other images captured Olivia secretly adding the substance to soups and meals. Additionally, there were pictures of Olivia's smartphone, showing text exchanges with a man named Adam. The messages made it clear they were having an affair. Worse, they included plans to secure money by targeting Nathan and Rose's life insurance policies. It was undeniable evidence that Olivia had orchestrated everything. But the most chilling piece was the letter that came with the photos. It was written in Rose's handwriting, filled with sorrow and determination. "If you're reading this, I'm no longer in this world. It probably means that awful Mom has found her next victim." As the photos show, Mom and her lover have been taking lives to fund their luxury. First Nathan, and now me. But even if I speak up, I can't guarantee that Mom will be held accountable for her crimes, or that Nathan's suffering will be avenged. That's why I've gathered this evidence and entrusted it to Chloe. Please, Lily and Dad, use this to bring Mom to justice for what she did to Nathan and me. I'm sorry I couldn't keep my promise. I really wanted us three to stay together forever. As Chloe and I finished reading the letter, we both wept tears of mixed grief and fury. Rose had given Chloe the envelope, instructing her to open it if anything ever happened to her, and Olivia had another child. Chloe had kept it safe all this time, and finally opened it, learning the horrifying truth. Olivia wasn't just a selfish woman, she was a true monster. She had sacrificed her own children for money and luxury, and even showered her lover with the proceeds. It was clear that even the child born today would eventually become another victim for her greed. That was something I could not allow. Following Chloe's advice, we left immediately to meet James at the hospital. Telling James the truth, especially when he was eager to meet his new child, was heartbreaking. But I had no doubt it had to be done to protect the baby from harm. When we told James we needed to talk urgently, he agreed to meet us surprisingly quickly. From his demeanor, it seemed he had already sensed something was wrong but was hesitant to act, still wanting to believe in Olivia. When Chloe and I showed him the photos and the letter, James began to tremble, tears streaming down his face. The horrifying truth unraveled before him. The wife he had loved no matter what had sacrificed their children for her own luxury and betrayed him with another man. The emotional shock James endured must have been far greater than ours. After crying for a long time, he finally spoke. "Thank you for telling me. I knew something wasn't right, but I kept looking away. I'm truly sorry. This time, I'll make Olivia face the consequences of her actions. Nathan and Rose likely weren't her only victims. We need to uncover everything and ensure Olivia atones for her sins. I need your help from here on out. With James's resolute words, our journey of revenge began, taking us down a path far more complex than we had imagined. Olivia naturally grew suspicious when Chloe and I abruptly left, and James took an unusually long time to arrive. That day, I didn't return to Olivia. Instead, James went to her to cover for us. The next day, we began our preparations. We worked with private investigators and the police, making countless visits to their offices, all while preparing for the day we would confront Olivia. We even coordinated with the hospital where Olivia was staying, convincing them to extend her stay. Though Olivia complained, "I just want to go home," we persuaded her by saying, with Rose's situation, "It's hard for us to manage both you and the baby at home right now." A month later, I finally went to visit Olivia at the hospital. When I arrived, Olivia briefly frowned but quickly put on a warm, welcoming smile. "It's been a while. I've been so worried since you left so suddenly that day. Did you have something urgent to take care of? I really wished you could have been here the day the baby was born, but what's done is done. Come, meet my new baby. Isn't this little one just the cutest? I'm so overjoyed to have this third child, so happy, so blessed." "Yes, I'm sure you are," I replied coldly. "It must be thrilling for you, knowing that this child will eventually be another tool for funding your luxurious life with your lover. Just like Nathan and Rose, to you, even your own children are nothing more than a means to get money." I then presented Olivia with the evidence that Rose had so painstakingly gathered. As Olivia looked at the photos and read the letter, she stared at me, dumbfounded. I expected her to explode in rage, but instead, she began to cry and spoke in a sorrowful tone. "I never imagined Rose hated me this much. It's true that after losing Nathan, I fell back into my bad habits, and I wasn't there for her when she needed me most. But for her to fabricate such damning evidence to destroy me, I never thought she could hate me this much. I failed her as a mom. Once things settle down, I'll make sure to apologize to her properly. Lily, Chloe, please don't hate Rose for this. No matter what, we're family. I promise I'll finally be the mom I should have been and raise this child the way they deserve." Olivia's apparent grief left me confused. At first, I had thought of her as a monstrous villain capable of the most horrifying acts, but now she seemed like nothing more than a foolish, selfish woman prone to indulgence. Her demeanor exuded genuine despair, and I found myself questioning my assumptions. As I pondered this, James arrived with another man in tow. The moment Olivia saw him, she visibly flinched and averted her gaze. The man, breathing heavily, shouted, "Olivia, don't you dare try to cut me off, and save yourself now. I'm Adam, your lover, and I've been your partner in crime, ruining lives just to fund our lavish lifestyle. We even took out Lily's husband, making it look like an accident, so we could cash in on the insurance payout. Isn't that right, Olivia?" As Adam exposed their crimes, James produced additional evidence he had gathered with the help of detectives and police. Olivia's face, once tearful and full of regret, turned pale as she struggled to come up with an excuse. But James didn't give her the chance. "I wanted to believe in you so badly, Olivia. Even 10 years ago, when I suspected you might have had something to do with Henry's death, I kept quiet because I didn't want to think you were capable of such evil. You were my beloved wife, after all. But with all this evidence, I can't keep lying to myself. Please, just tell the truth. I don't want this to end with more lies. Finally cornered, Olivia fell silent for a long time. Then she erupted into an angry outburst. Yes, fine, I did it all. And let me tell you, Adam here is nothing but a pathetic parasite who only cared about money. I've always been the one making things happen, getting the money. But thanks to his big mouth, we're officially accomplices now. The crimes and the punishments will share them. Lily, Chloe, James, too bad your revenge wasn't as sweet as you'd hoped. I'll enjoy my stay in prison. Go ahead, arrest me. I'm not running or hiding. All of you are nothing but a nuisance, always in my way. But this is goodbye. In front of Olivia's triumphant declaration, I held out something, a recording device. I had been recording everything. I was certain she would try to use some clever trick to escape, so I had prepared for this moment. Finally cornered, Olivia broke down and began apologizing. I'm so sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen. I just wanted the money. No, it's Adam. He kept demanding money, and he was rough with me. I had no choice. Please, forgive me. If I get arrested, there's no way I'll survive this. Desperately trying to save herself, Olivia was met with James's coldest tone yet. Yes, you're finished. But this is the consequence of trampling over everyone else to fulfill your selfish desires. The only way to atone for what you've done is to face your punishment and regret it for the rest of your life. So, goodbye, Olivia. Please, I'm sorry, someone, help me. Olivia's pleas fell on deaf ears. Both she and Adam were taken away by the waiting police officers. And just like that, our revenge was complete. The toxins used on Rose were identified, and thankfully, she began to recover from her dire state. When Rose regained consciousness, Chloe confronted her tearfully. Why didn't you tell us sooner? We promised we'd always be together. From now on, you have to promise to tell me everything. I won't forgive you otherwise. Though we had lost 2 precious lives, we managed to save Rose. James, Chloe, and I cried tears of joy at her recovery. As for Olivia, she was sentenced to the harshest punishment for destroying 2 lives. The same fate befell Adam. Though he protested, I didn't do anything. His role in planning, procuring the drugs, and splitting the insurance money with Olivia made him equally culpable. Now they would both endure the same suffering they had inflicted on others, paying for their crimes until the very end. After the divorce, custody of Olivia's newborn child went to James. She was a beautiful little girl, and James named her Hope. As for me, after everything that had happened, I ended up marrying James. Through all the hardships we'd faced, we had grown close, and eventually, we decided to spend our lives together. After our wedding, we visited the cemetery. Henry and Nathan were buried in the same plot. Chloe, Lily, and Hope all came along. Even though Henry and Nathan were no longer with us, they were still an important part of our family. Both of you, please keep watching over us. We'll live our lives to the fullest, for your sake as well. We'll come visit again. Rest peacefully together. For the sake of my family, I resolve to keep living strongly, cherishing every moment.
I'm home.
Hey, what was that debit card in your desk all about? Why do you have a hidden savings of $300,000? You looked through my things? I had it locked. You're the worst.
I usually kept my checkbook and debit cards locked in my desk. But it seemed like James had been snooping around while I was out. The desk key was always in the bag I took to work, which meant he had gone through my bag as well. What he did was no different from stealing.
Apologize for going through my things. And that's not a hidden savings. But we're married, so your money is our money. I've been thinking about how to cover Mom's retirement funds, so I'm giving it all to her.
Wait a minute, that's impossible. No way, that money isn't for both of us, it's mine. And there's no way I'm giving it to Amanda, my mother-in-law, who always treats me badly.
I won't allow it. I'd rather donate all the money than give it to her. If you're going to say that, then I'll divorce you. If you're fine with that, keep talking.
He glared at me as he handed over the divorce papers. Fine, if it's come to this, I have my own plan. I took the divorce papers from him and decided to leave. 1 month later.
Hey! I just checked the account. Why is there only $1 left?
Of course, because that account is. My name is Rebecca, and I'm currently working at an international company at the age of 28. I've always been good with languages since I was a child, and I studied international relations in college. To use that knowledge and language skills, I joined an international company, and though the days were busy and challenging, I was able to lead a fulfilling life. Rebecca. Here are the materials for next week's presentation. Could you check them? I'm still not confident with my work. Sure. I'll review them by this evening, so send the PDF to my PC. At this company, there is no promotion system based on years of service. The more capable you are, the higher you go. That's why I was involved in a major project in my 3rd year, gaining a lot of experience. As a result, by the time I was nearly 30, I had subordinates and, if I do say so myself, I was quite well liked. That's why I found work enjoyable and could commit to it wholeheartedly. Life was fun not just because of work, but also because my personal life was fulfilling.
Sorry, the meeting ran late. I made you wait, didn't I?
Don't worry about it.
I've made a reservation at the finest French restaurant for the most beautiful woman in the world, so let's hurry.
I've been dating James for a year, and he's truly a gentleman. He treats me like a princess, and I love his consideration. That day was our 1-year anniversary. He had gone all out and made a reservation at a nice restaurant. A man who is considerate is really fun to be with, and it makes my heart dance. As I was enjoying the meal, he suddenly took out a small box and gently held my hand.
In this past year, I've grown to love you deeply. Will you marry me?
Yes.
Please take care of me.
I had a feeling this might happen, but he proposed to me. As we were being watched, applause naturally broke out around us. It was the happiest I had ever felt in my life, and I could truly believe that I would be happy with this person forever. After that, our life together began, and the first month was nothing short of smooth sailing. James also helped with the housework, so I was able to concentrate on my job, and on days when I worked late and was tired, he would be waiting for me at home. Just that was enough to motivate me at work, and I really thought getting married was the best decision. Because we were both busy with work, we didn't have a wedding, but we both agreed on that. Instead, we bought expensive wedding rings and lived our own version of happiness, and 2 months passed. On one of those days, James took a paid leave, and I was at work. I'm home, huh? You're quite late.
It's already 8 p.m.
Mother-in-law, you're here.
Well, is there a problem with coming to my son's house?
There's no problem. I had met her several times since we got married, and growing up in a single-mother household, I understood how important James's mother was to him. But I wasn't expecting her to visit today, so I was a bit surprised. I had called James on my way home, so he could have told me then. Sorry, work was a bit hectic. Have you had dinner?
I had Italian with my son.
I see. I'm not so childish as to be upset that they didn't take me along. I wanted to finish work today, so I stayed late, but if I had been invited, I could have left early to join them. Well, maybe James wanted some parent-child bonding time, so it's not something I should complain about. But, for some reason, my mother-in-law didn't seem to have any intention of leaving, even after I got home. James was relaxing watching TV, and I wondered what was going on. When my mother-in-law went to the bathroom, I decided to ask him.
Hey, do you know when mother-in-law plans to leave? She's staying over tonight. Didn't I tell you? What? Staying over? Yeah. I'm off tomorrow too, and we're going on a trip in the morning. So, take care of things at home.
Even if she's staying over suddenly, where is she supposed to sleep? After we got married, I moved into his place, so it's not that spacious. We sleep in one bedroom, and it's not that big, and we don't have an extra bed. She'll have to sleep on the couch, but it's really uncomfortable to have this decided without any discussion. Sure, she's family, but now that we live together, he should consider my feelings too. Having a guest over is one thing, but staying over is a completely different matter.
Rebecca, here are the materials for next week's presentation. Could you check them? I'm still not confident with my work. It's not nice to make my mom sleep on the couch. She'll sleep in your bed, and you can sleep on the couch tonight. It's just one night, so it's fine, right?
What? What is he saying? If he's the one who decided to have her stay over, he should sleep on the couch. I worked all day and I'm tired, so why should I be the one inconvenienced? But arguing about it here won't help. Besides, I was tired from work and irritated, so I tried not to complain. But there they were, James and mother-in-law, watching TV in the living room with the sofa. I thought, I'm tired, so please let me sleep soon, but they ended up making noise until around 1 a.m.
We plan to leave the house at 9 a.m. tomorrow, so wake me up around 8 and have breakfast ready. What? I have to make it. Do you expect us to leave without eating anything?
We're going out, and that's quite harsh. Do you dislike me?
That's not what I meant, but...
If I have to wake them up at 8 and have breakfast ready, I have to get up by 7. I wasn't allowed to sleep until 1 a.m. because of them, and now this? They're being incredibly selfish. Who do they think that I am? A housekeeper or something? I don't mind doing what I can, and since mother-in-law is visiting, I want to be hospitable. But this kind of demanding request makes me not want to comply so easily.
How about buying breakfast from a grocery store or somewhere? It's already late, and it's tough to get up early and prepare it. Mom is visiting, so don't say that. Preparing meals is your role, and you should do at least that much. When your husband's parents visited, it was common for the wife to host them. It's troubling that you don't understand common sense.
The era I live in and the era you lived in are different, so don't impose your common sense on me. If I were a housewife, I would think it's only natural to do that much. But we both work, and if we talk about salaries, I earn more. I also contribute to living expenses, and it's because of that James can take his mother on a trip. Sighing, I wondered why they couldn't understand this. Before I could respond, they went to the bedroom, but if I didn't prepare breakfast, they would be angry again. I sighed deeply once more, set the alarm for 7 a.m., and went to bed that day.
Good morning. Breakfast is ready, so please eat before it gets cold.
Huh?
What's this? Isn't breakfast supposed to be a salmon plate with sides? Didn't you say Mom liked salmon? Gosh, sorry, Mom. She doesn't seem to know nothing.
I got up at 7 and made several dishes like scrambled eggs and soup, but the first thing they did was criticize the meal I prepared. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, without knowing how hard I worked to make it. I got annoyed in the morning, but I ignored their words and finished setting the table. Of course, I didn't intend to eat with them, so I fiddled with my smartphone on the sofa. This soup is quite salty. Did you even taste it? I did taste it. Didn't it suit your taste?
A woman who can't even make a proper breakfast. Soup is one of the basics, and it's disappointing.
To say that after having someone cook for you is too much. If you have so many complaints, you should just cook for yourself. Since yesterday, I couldn't understand what my mother-in-law was thinking at all. Maybe this was her way of harassing me. Some of my married friends had mentioned being complained about for chores and meals, so I was prepared for it, but I didn't think it would really happen. But if this was her way of harassing me, resisting would be pointless. I'm sorry. From now on, I'll try harder to improve my cooking skills.
Anyone can say that.
When I sincerely apologized, my mother-in-law, with a smug look on her face, returned to her meal. She is so annoying. I shuddered in fear at the thought that this might continue forever, but there was no use worrying about the future too much. The two of them left right after finishing their meal, so I decided to take it easy and go to bed early that day. Just not having my mother-in-law around made me feel so much better, and in the evening, I went out to eat alone for the first time in a while and went to bed early. The next day, James came back alone and said he had taken my mother-in-law to the in-laws' family.
You know, even if you don't like my mom, you shouldn't show it so openly. Not cooking properly, is that some kind of prank? Prank? I cooked properly. You didn't make any requests, did you? If you call that cooking properly, I think you lack awareness as a wife. Maybe you should go through some bride training?
He said sarcastically. If he had so many complaints, he could have cooked himself. He pushes everything onto me and just complains. They really are alike, both mother and son. I had a good relationship with James, and we were happy until recently, but this incident has made the future look uncertain. However, we both had jobs, and my mother-in-law only came once a month. Even though that felt too frequent, I could live without accumulating too much stress. A year passed like this. One day, during the summer holidays, my mother-in-law came to visit.
This is beef stew? It's like dog food. Can't even make beef stew properly. You really have no learning ability.
Sigh. I'm sorry. I guess I'm just bad at cooking.
Don't you think it's disrespectful to your husband to serve such bad food? Well, I mostly eat out at company dinners, so it's not really a big deal for me.
Here we go again. Every time she visits, she makes me cook and then insults my food. I've gotten used to it, but recently James has started to mock me in the same way. Before we got married, he was so gentlemanly and kind, but now it's like he's a different person. Maybe he's a mama's boy and thinks whatever his mother says is absolute. Either way, it's depressing. Since it was a nearby holiday, I thought I'd relax at home, but with these two around, it's just stressful. I quickly finished the housework and decided to go out.
Where do you think you're going? My mom's here, and you're not going to entertain her? No matter what I do, you two just complain. So at least let me enjoy my day off.
I said harshly to him and left the house. Leaving them behind, they were probably mad, but I didn't care. If I'm going to be complained about at home, it's better not to be there. With that in mind, I enjoyed shopping and watching movies after a long time, and had a fulfilling day. When I got back home, they were still there. It was 7 p.m., so I thought they would have gone out for dinner. I'm home.
Come here for a minute.
What could it be? He didn't seem angry, but he had a serious expression. And he led me to the bedroom so his mother couldn't hear. What on earth could it be about?
What is this all about? Why do you have $300,000 in savings?
James said, showing me my debit card. It was something I had never shown him, and I kept it hidden in my desk drawer. The drawer held important items like my checkbook, and the key was always in my bag. Today, I had taken a different bag to work, so he must have snooped through my things.
Did you go through my bag and unlock my drawer without asking? That's not the point. Why do you have this secret stash? Such a large amount. Why did you keep it hidden all this time? I told you before we got married that my parents passed away. This is the inheritance from that time.
My parents had died in a car accident before I married him, and the settlement from the lawsuit had brought in a substantial amount of money. I hadn't told him the exact amount, and I had kept it separate from our joint savings, so I hadn't touched it.
If you have this much money, we can take Mom on a trip. And it can be used for her retirement, so I'm giving it all to her.
What? Maybe I'm tired. I must have heard him wrong. There's no way I'm giving all this money to my mother-in-law.
Sorry, what did you just say? I said, I'm giving all this money to Mom. We're married, so this is our money. I can use it however I want, can't I?
Realizing I hadn't misheard, I let out a deep sigh. It's August, not April 1st, so it can't be an April Fool's joke. And James didn't seem to be joking or fooling around. Even so, I can't accept such a ridiculous proposal.
You know that's not something I can accept, right? This is my money. Your money? We're married, so it's our money. Mom said you're too arrogant for a wife. If you keep this up, I'll divorce you.
He then showed me a completed divorce application form. He's trying to threaten me. I've overlooked their tyranny until now, but this is too much. I've had enough of being treated like a fool. If you think you can just have your way with me, you're sorely mistaken.
Fine. You won't be so tough for long,
I said as I'd snatched the divorce application from him. He glared at me and then went back to the living room, but he took the debit card with him. He must think I can't do anything without it. He can do whatever he wants. That very day, I packed my things and left. Now that I've left, what should I do? My parents are gone, what should I do now? Well, there's no point in worrying, so I decided to stay at a business hotel for the time being. I hadn't planned what to do next, and I had left on impulse, but I had no intention of going back to James. As I was thinking that, James called.
What do you want? Does leaving mean you want a divorce? Thanks for confirming. Yes, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. That's fine, but since you left unilaterally, there's no distribution of property.
He then hung up. He doesn't want to split the property, that's fine. In fact, it's only to my advantage, he's misunderstanding something. After that, I immediately contacted it and arranged to stay at their place for a while. It was supposed to be until I found a new place, but they were really kind to take me in. I'm sorry to trouble you. Thank you so much.
When you're in trouble, we help each other out. Besides, when I first joined the company, you taught me the ropes and helped me a lot. I'll do anything I can for you.
Although it was tough handling everything, I managed to find a new apartment while still going to work, and everything was going smoothly. 1 month later. Out of the blue, my ex-husband, who hadn't contacted me at all, suddenly called me frantically.
Hello? Hey! What the hell happened to your debit card? Why is there only $1 left?
He finally noticed. It's been a month since then, and he's really clueless. Did he think I would let him use that money without saying anything? If he did, it's laughable how stupid he is.
Did you really think I'd let you use all the money? But that's absurd. How did you spend all that money?
I didn't spend it. I transferred it to another account. It took a few days, but I moved all of it. When I said that, he was speechless, as if he'd been struck dumb. I mean, how could he think I spent that much money in a month? He's really ignorant and dumb. Marrying him was a mistake I can't admit to anyone in my life. Thinking that, I continued to speak, piling on. I heard from some mutual friends that you've been buying luxury goods and going on trips abroad.
Well, that's normal. If you think that much money is yours. Besides, you promised not to divide the property, so it's wrong for you to take it.
Don't make me laugh. If we weren't dividing the property, then this money is mine. This is money I had before the marriage, and even if it was after, inheritances aren't subject to property division. It's really a problem that you don't know basic facts. My ex-husband probably splurged on his credit card, but we're already divorced, and this money was inherited before we married, so no matter how much he struggles, it's mine. He fell silent again. He's probably devastated, but he switches gears oddly quickly.
But I don't agree to the divorce. You filed the papers on your own. It's invalid.
Do you really think that's going to work?
I didn't agree to the divorce.
Well, if he insists, he might have a point. Divorce generally requires mutual consent. However, there are exceptions to every rule. Even so, the emotional harassment I endured, that's enough to validate the divorce. If you want to contest it, go ahead and sue me.
Not a lawsuit. Can't we just talk it out?
Talk it out? You called me up, raging, so it doesn't seem like we can have a calm discussion. That's why I'm suggesting court. Whenever I said something, he would fall silent. If he's this bad at arguing, he should just listen to what I say. Well, he's probably desperate to handle the huge payments he faces, but there's nothing he can do. I ended the call and deleted his contact. I had already filed for divorce, and although there were issues with the distribution of property, we had been splitting living expenses evenly, so our savings should be equal. When I consulted a lawyer, they said that even if we pursued the distribution of property legally, the lawyer fees would likely exceed the gains, so my ex-husband wouldn't be foolish enough to do that. So, have you settled things with your ex-husband? We've completely cut ties, so there's no problem. Besides, I heard from a friend that a lot happened after that. Apparently, James tried to borrow money from friends in the end. However, since no one was willing to lend him such a large amount, he had no choice but to borrow from payday loan companies, which led to the breakdown of his relationship with his parents. A mutual friend said that they blamed each other for what happened, and now they're completely estranged. But if he needs care in the future, it'll fall to his only son, James, so I wonder what they'll do. That's true. I mean, borrowing money to pay off other debts, that's a vicious cycle, isn't it? Exactly. In the end, he became so desperate that he might have even turned to illegal lenders. It just shows how lacking his social network is that no one stepped in to help him. It seems that my ex-husband is now working his regular job and also doing part-time work from evening until late at night to make ends meet. Since all the debts are in his name, he must be really struggling. As for his mother, she probably spent all of the $300,000 she received, so she must not have any savings left. Considering she doesn't work, she must have been living off her pension, but with no money left, I wonder what she'll do. Well, in any case, they got what they deserved for trying to use me. I hope they suffer thoroughly in the future. Anyway, from now on, I'm going to forget about those people and focus on my work. So, you better keep up with me.
If you become my boss, make sure to give me a raise.
By the way, I've decided to focus on my work since then, and I've been promoted. It's not that I'm obsessed with money, but it's definitely nice to have my efforts recognized by the company. Given my age, if I'm going to remarry, I should start looking for a partner soon, but for now, I'm focusing on my career. Marriage isn't something that can be sustained by love alone. But if you start looking down on your partner or trying to use them, the trust in the relationship is already broken at that point. It's too late now, but I hope James learns from this and moves forward. Well, I can't imagine anyone wanting to be with a debt-ridden man with no savings anyway. Hey, I want a divorce.
What?
Actually, I've been seeing someone for a while, and I want to divorce you and marry her.
What do you mean you've been seeing someone? Can you explain?
Remember 6 months ago when I went to the dermatologist? I'm seeing a nurse from there. She's 25, and being young is amazing. We couldn't have a child in 2 years, but she got pregnant in 6 months. She's already 3 months along. Hubert needs an organ transplant because of his illness, and I was prepared to support him through this. Yet, Hubert keeps hitting me with shocking revelations. I'm so confused, my thoughts are swirling, and suddenly, I realize something important.
So, you started cheating 6 months ago, before you knew about your illness?
Yeah, that's right. You're a useless infertile woman at 30, so get lost. It's a divorce. Up until now, I never got angry at anything Hubert did or said because I thought his illness made him emotionally unstable. But the cheating started before his illness was diagnosed. So, the illness has nothing to do with it. That means I have every right to be angry. All right, fine. Let's get divorced. But I won't yell at Hubert. I've endured a lot for his sake, and I was ready to keep helping him. Yet, Hubert has been cheating with a 25-year-old nurse who's now pregnant. Just yelling won't satisfy me. I decided to let Hubert deeply regret divorcing me. My name is Colette. I'm a 32-year-old employee. I'm not particularly talented or highly rated, but I like my job and have been doing my best. You could say I'm quite dedicated to my work. I married my husband, Hubert, 2 years ago, and we don't have children yet. We met about 5 years ago at a gathering of acquaintances. Hubert was a friend of a friend, and we met for the first time.
So, Colette, what kind of work do you do? Are you off on Sundays? What do you do on your days off? Do you have any available days?
Hubert, you're drunk, aren't you? You should take it easy or you'll have a hard time getting home. Oh, excuse me for a moment. Around the middle of the party, a tipsy Hubert started coming on strong. I was always focused on work and not interested in romance, so I politely brushed him off, but when he got too persistent, I escaped to the bathroom. Looking in the bathroom mirror, I sighed, thinking it would be troublesome to go back. But I also saw a not entirely displeased expression on my face. I had avoided romance until now, so I didn't have much experience with such advances, and despite everything, it felt nice to be approached by the opposite sex. When I returned to my seat, Hubert spoke to me again.
So, Colette, what days are you available?
I follow the calendar, so weekends and holidays. After exchanging contact information, Hubert continued to pursue me after the party, and we started dating. I thought Hubert was just an annoying drunk bothering everyone, but it turns out he was using alcohol to muster the courage to talk to me. My first impression of Hubert was the worst, but without his drunken persistence, we wouldn't have started dating. You never know how things will turn out in life. 3 years after meeting Hubert, we got married. People were surprised that I, a workaholic, got married, but I was just as surprised. I never thought I'd get married. Dating Hubert and seriously considering love and marriage changed my perspective. People change according to their situations and environments. I felt happy living with Hubert after we got married. However, 2 years into our marriage, now I am beginning to regret it, thinking maybe I would have been better off single. It's been 2 years since we got married, but we still haven't had any children. I'm 32 years old, and Hubert is 37, so we're starting to feel the pressure because of our ages. I thought it was strange that we hadn't had children yet, so I decided to get tested for infertility. I had to break the news to Hubert with a heavy heart. You got the test results today, right? How did it go? It turns out I have infertility issues. I see. But listen, the doctor said there's about a 30% chance of success with treatment. And the chances increase with repeated treatments.
So, we can have kids then.
Hubert's face lit up with hope at my words. However, I had to tell him something that would darken his expression again. I had brightened his mood first to lessen the emotional blow. With a somber expression, I delivered the sad truth to Hubert. But the average infertility treatment takes about 2 years.
It takes that long?
As expected, Hubert's expression darkened. In 2 years, I would be in my mid-30s, and Hubert would be close to 40. Of course, I still intended to try my best. However, Hubert furrowed his brow, looked down, and seemed deep in thought. Where are you going alone?
Leave me alone. I can do whatever I want on my days off.
Hubert's attitude noticeably changed after learning about my infertility. He ignored me or yelled when I spoke to him, and when he talked to me, it was only about simple things like baths, meals, or sleep. His change in behavior was so clear that it was almost refreshing to understand the cause. But there was something that kept bothering me, and no matter how much he ignored or yelled at me, I kept bringing it up. You're scratching again. Shouldn't you see a doctor?
Shut up. I don't need you to tell me what to do.
As usual, he shouted at me. I watched him scratch his belly with concern. Lately, Hubert had been itching all over his body. I knew from experience that it's best to catch illnesses early. So I kept urging him to go to the doctor, but Hubert stubbornly refused just because it was me suggesting it. As a result, he didn't go to the hospital and unnecessarily endured the itching. The itching didn't go away on its own and got worse and worse. You're scratching so much, why don't you just go to the hospital?
Yeah, maybe you're right. This is a bit unusual.
For once, Hubert responded rationally and followed my advice. Apparently, the itching had reached its limit for him. When Hubert returned from the dermatologist, he was unusually cheerful. He sat happily on the living room sofa and started applying the ointment he got from the hospital to his body. What did the doctor say?
They couldn't pinpoint the cause, so they told me to apply this anti-itch ointment and see how it goes. Finally, I can get some relief from this itching.
The itching must have been severe because he was slathering the ointment on his body quite generously. I thought about telling him to be careful, but since he was in such a rare good mood, I decided to let it slide. Thanks to the ointment, the itching subsided a bit, and Hubert's good mood continued. With the reduced itching, he started going out more, eating out after work, and spending his weekends out alone, coming back late at night. It's a wife's duty to worry when her husband, Hubert, comes home late. However, when he's home, we don't really talk much, and I end up having to take care of him, so I find it easier when Hubert is out. He's in a good mood anyway, so I thought it would be fine for a while. But there are things I need to bring to his attention, even if it means upsetting him. You haven't been to the dermatologist recently, are you okay?
Huh? I'm fine, really. Even if I go, they'll just give me the same itch cream. I still have some left, so I'll go when it runs out.
But didn't the doctor tell you to come back regularly? You're always so nagging.
I know my body better than anyone. If I say I'm fine, I'm fine.
Despite saying he's fine, Hubert is scratching his arm. He's been to the dermatologist about 3 times, but then he stopped going completely. He's using the itch cream, but it only reduces the itching, it doesn't eliminate it. That's why I keep urging Hubert to go to the doctor. Even though I sometimes think of him as a nuisance at home, I still worry about him. But to Hubert, I'm just being a nag, and he always yells at me. Hubert's bizarre logic seems to surpass the doctor's knowledge and skills. If his strange theories could cure his itching, that would be great, but of course, they can't, and his condition has been getting worse.
Hey, are you okay? Your eyes are turning yellow.
Yeah. I'm fine. But I feel sick, so I'm taking the day off. 6 months after he stopped going to the dermatologist, Hubert couldn't get out of bed and was scratching his body while lying down. The itching had become more severe, and he was scratching himself even while asleep. His body was bleeding in places, and there were spots of blood on the bed. Taking the day off is fine, but you need to go to the hospital.
I told you, I'm fine.
I'll get better if I rest.
Enough already. Your eyes are a strange color and you're covered in blood, and you still say that. Don't worry about me, you go to work.
Hubert is yelling, but not as loudly as usual. In this situation, I can't go along with Hubert's stubbornness. I decide to take the day off as well and drag Hubert to the hospital. I leave him lying down for now and prepare to go to the hospital. 10 minutes later, when I return to the bedroom, Hubert is holding his phone, possibly having called his work. Come on. Can you get dressed? We're going to the hospital. Yeah, sorry. Did someone from work tell him to go to the hospital? Hubert was unusually compliant this time. It was easier for me, so I didn't say anything and just took Hubert to the car and headed to the hospital. After the examination, Hubert was diagnosed with primary biliary cholangitis. It's a disease where the ducts in the liver get damaged and can't function properly. In the early stages, taking medication regularly allows one to live normally, but if the disease progresses, it requires the same treatment as cirrhosis. Naturally, Hubert had to undergo treatment for cirrhosis. If he had continued going to the dermatologist, the doctor might have noticed something and referred him to a larger hospital at some point. So it's no wonder people say it's his own fault for not catching the disease earlier. Hubert was told by the doctor that he had a serious illness, and he stood there, staring at the floor in a daze. He seemed to have stopped hearing the doctor's words, so I made sure to listen carefully on his behalf. As I continued to listen, the doctor shared even more shocking news. If Hubert's treatment for cirrhosis didn't show any improvement, he would need a liver transplant, and without the surgery, his life will be at risk. Crushed by this harsh reality, Hubert and I staggered home, barely able to keep our balance. It's going to be okay. I'm sure they'll find a donor soon.
Stop giving me false hope. My illness is life-threatening, unlike your infertility. A donor won't be easy to find.
Although Hubert had stopped shouting, his voice was low and menacing, making his words feel even more threatening. His eyes were sharp, glaring at me as if my words of encouragement were an insult. Hubert had to continue his outpatient treatment while waiting for a donor. As he said, finding a donor wouldn't be easy. The number of registered donors here is lower compared to other countries, and many people end up waiting indefinitely. The only consolation was that liver transplants were relatively more common compared to other organs. In this dire situation, Hubert became increasingly despondent.
What the hell is this disgusting food?
The doctor said the yellowing around your eyes was due to high cholesterol. He recommended more fiber, so naturally, the meals are more vegetable-based.
Shut up. How can I eat this crap when my time is running out?
Hubert swept all the dishes off the table with his arm. I used to think scenes like this only happened in dramas, but now it was happening right in front of me. I picked up the pieces of the broken dishes. Hubert, overwhelmed by his illness, had quit his job, and this had become our daily routine. Just the other day, he got angry because the TV show wasn't entertaining, so he threw the remote at the screen, breaking the TV. Even at the hospital, he acted dismissively toward the doctor's advice. Yeah, right. Sure, whatever. He responded like a sulky child being scolded by a teacher, not really listening to what was being said. So, I made sure to listen to the doctor's instructions again. Considering Hubert's situation, it was understandable that he was lashing out. Thus, I refrained from complaining or scolding him. However, even considering his illness, something happened that I couldn't forgive. Hey, I want a divorce.
What?
Still in the middle of taking off my shoes after coming home from work, Hubert, smirking, dropped the divorce bombshell on me. I was so stunned that I stopped taking off my shoes. Even though he still needed treatment for his illness, he wanted to divorce me? As I questioned him, Hubert revealed everything without hiding anything. Actually, I've been seeing someone else for a while now, and I want to divorce you and marry her.
What?
My confusion only deepened. If he had been seeing someone else for a while, wasn't that an affair? Unable to grasp what he was saying, I moved to the living room to hear him out.
What do you mean you've been seeing someone? Explain it to me properly.
6 months ago, I went to the dermatologist, right? I've been seeing one of the nurses there. She's 25, and being young is amazing. We couldn't have a child for 2 years, but with her, it only took 6 months. She's already 3 months pregnant. With his life potentially cut short, Hubert was brutally honest with me about everything. I was so shocked by Hubert's barrage of startling revelations that I couldn't say anything, and my mind started racing with various thoughts. As I pondered, I realized Hubert's behavior over the past 6 months made sense. He had become more cheerful after visiting the dermatologist, and his late returns coincided with those visits. On the day his illness was discovered, he had stubbornly refused to go to the hospital, but suddenly agreed to go. At that time, he had a smartphone in his hand. Maybe Hubert was calling not his company, but his lover. The lover must have been worried about Hubert and kept urging him to go to the hospital, and that day, the call was about him finally being persuaded to go. In just a few seconds, numerous thoughts raced through my mind. After understanding and speculating about the situation, I realized something crucial.
So, you started the affair 6 months ago, which means it was before you knew about your illness, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You're a useless infertile woman at 30, so get lost.
It's a divorce. Hubert, with a smug look, kept repeating divorce, divorce. Until now, I hadn't gotten angry at anything Hubert did or said, thinking his erratic behavior was due to his illness. But the affair happened before his illness was discovered. So, the illness was irrelevant. That means I have every right to be mad. Fine, then let's get divorced. However, I didn't yell at Hubert. I had put up with a lot for Hubert's sake, and I intended to keep helping him. Yet, Hubert had an affair with a 25-year-old nurse who was now pregnant. Yelling at him would be too lenient. I decided to let Hubert deeply regret divorcing me. The next day, I quickly got the divorce papers and sat down with Hubert to fill them out.
I'm glad you're making this divorce so easy for me.
Hubert, looking unusually cheerful for a sick person, swiftly filled out the divorce papers. Then I signed the divorce papers too.
I'll file these divorce papers myself, so I'll keep them. Yeah, thanks for everything. And here's something you don't need anymore. Take it for your future treatment.
Huh? What's this document? I pulled the divorce papers closer to me and handed another document to Hubert.
This is the living donor liver transplant form.
Living donor liver transplant? Hubert reacted as if hearing it for the first time, even though he had been told before. Apparently, Hubert hadn't been listening to the doctor. When we think of transplants, we often imagine organs being taken from deceased donors. However, some organs can be transplanted from living donors. The liver Hubert needed was one of those organs. Depending on the hospital, the requirements vary, but it is possible if the donor is a close relative or spouse. If someone willing to donate is found, the transplant can proceed without waiting for a deceased donor. I had undergone tests to see if I could be a donor for Hubert. The document I handed to Hubert was related to those tests.
Why did you hide this treatment option from me?
I didn't hide it. You were so distraught that you didn't listen to the doctor or me properly. I discussed being a donor right in front of you. You probably thought I was talking about registered donors.
But if you were going to be tested as a donor, you should have told me.
I admit it, I went behind your back to get tested as a donor, thinking you were clueless about it. But it was only because I didn't want to break your heart again if the results weren't good. So, I planned to tell you once I knew I could give you good news. Listening to my explanation, Hubert picked up the document in front of him and started to glance through it. But the details were complicated, and it would be hard to understand everything at a glance. I decided to explain what the document meant. The test results show that I can be your donor without any problems.
Really?
Hubert's face lit up hearing that I could be his donor. But I had to dampen his newfound hope with what I needed to say next. The only thing left is for us to confirm our intentions. But honestly, I have no intention of donating my organs to you.
What? You went through all the testing, and now you say this? Isn't the next step just the transplant surgery?
I'm not going to help someone who got his mistress pregnant. Hearing that I wouldn't be his donor, Hubert's expression darkened. But realizing he had a potential donor right in front of him, he quickly shifted to a mix of panic and desperation.
If you don't become my donor, I won't live long. Are you really going to let a life slip away, you heartless woman?
For something he said on the spot, it hit a sore spot. Indeed, it doesn't feel good to let a life go, no matter who it is. But I'm not the only one who can save Hubert's life. Don't say I'm letting a life slip away. It's not like I have to be the donor. Right. My wife can be a donor, too. So, my new partner could also be a donor, right? That's right. So, ask your 25-year-old nurse. But she's pregnant, so the surgery will have to wait. And she has to agree to it, of course. I get it. So, I don't need you after all. I wasted my time worrying. Finding out that his affair partner could also be a donor, Hubert looked at me with disdain. He realized he didn't need me anymore and decided he didn't have to be nice to me. Hubert's thoughts are always so transparent in times like these. After that, Hubert and I got divorced, and I moved out to live on my own. I had enough savings and a job, so there was no problem with my living situation. It was just like going back to life before marriage. A month after the divorce, while I was fully immersed in work, I got a call from Hubert. I thought it might be something related to the divorce, so I answered.
Please, help me. There's no one else I can turn to.
Hubert's voice was so loud that I had to pull the phone away from my ear. He sounded incredibly desperate. What happened?
The person I was supposed to marry ran away.
What? Seriously? I couldn't help but laugh at the unexpected turn of events.
I asked her to marry me and become my donor after giving birth. She immediately said no. Anyone would be a donor for me, right?
So, what happened after she refused?
It's a matter of life and death for me, so I kept begging her, even though she said no repeatedly. Then she disappeared and cut off all contact.
I was exasperated by Hubert's actions and thinking. I understood that it was a matter of life and death for him. But being a donor also comes with risks for the donor. Having surgery means creating scars on the body, and since donating an organ involves risks, such as reduced bodily functions or potential illness, these dangers are significant. Even if the person you're marrying is the one you're pregnant with, it's hard to nod your head and take on that risk when you're a young woman of 25 who hasn't even known her partner for a year. Even after spending 5 years dating and marrying Hubert and deciding to help him, I still felt a bit uneasy about becoming a donor. Asking someone to make such an important decision, almost like coercing them, would be too much for anyone. I can understand why his affair partner wanted to run away. Also, I can understand Hubert's feelings of wanting to turn to me after being abandoned by his affair partner, but I can't help him anymore. I'm sorry, but I can't help you anymore.
Don't say that. Help me. The test results showed you can be a donor, right?
Listen, we're divorced, so we're practically strangers. I already told you that only relatives can do living liver transplants.
Then so.
I'm not going to remarry you. I interrupted Hubert's plea. Hubert is so predictable when he's in situations like this.
What am I supposed to do then?
You don't have any siblings, so the only ones left are your parents. How old are they again? Dad is 67, and Mom is 66. Sorry. Living liver transplants are generally only for those between the ages of 20 and 65. You'll just have to wait for a donor to be found through the donor registry.
But there's a chance no donor will be found, right? That means I only have 10 years left to live.
I've been wondering, why do you fixate on 10 years? The prognosis of 10 years is for people whose disease progresses rapidly. The progression rate varies from person to person, so you might live 30 or 40 years.
Still, you never know what might happen, right?
You divorced your 30-year-old infertile wife because she was useless and worthless, thinking your affair partner would be your donor. Now, we're strangers, so don't call me except for divorce-related matters. Hubert was still whining, but I hung up the phone because it had nothing to do with me anymore. Looking at my phone screen after hanging up, I silently wished Hubert well in his treatment as an acquaintance. Hubert, having divorced me and been abandoned by his affair partner, was now alone, waiting for a donor while continuing his treatment. He had quit his job, but with savings from 15 years of work, he was able to live by dipping into those savings for the time being. However, both treatment and living expenses cost money. Additionally, he has to pay me compensation from our divorce trial over his infidelity and child support for the child his affair partner is going to have. Thus, his savings will run out quickly. Hubert needs to find a job before his money runs out, but job hunting while dealing with an illness is quite challenging, and he's struggling to find work. Since he let go of the person who would support him, he needs to figure it out on his own. I returned to focusing solely on my work. While Hubert is probably suffering from our divorce, I realize that being single suits me. Focusing on work seems to have changed my perspective again. Until my perspective changes once more, I'll continue to work hard for now. I live with my husband Siegfried's parents. My father-in-law, Alistair, is considerate towards me, but my mother-in-law, Violet, has always seen me as an adversary. It seems she thinks I'm being spoiled all the time. In reality, that's not the case, but Violet is quite envious and it bothers her immensely. Because of that, she subjects me to daily harassment. One day, everyone except me was going on a trip. Just before Violet left, she asked me to tidy up the luggage and led me to the basement. After I finished carrying the luggage, I noticed Violet behind me, and suddenly, the door slammed shut and I heard the sound of a lock clicking. I was trapped in the freezing basement.
Huh? Please let me out. Open the door.
I'll open it for you in 3 days. Well then, I'm off for the trip. In the freezing basement with no cell phone or anything else, I tried to figure out how to escape. But no method came to mind, so I decided to wait, eating the stocked provisions I found by chance. 3 days later, Violet came back humming a tune. She laughed as she headed to the basement, imagining me shivering and curled up from the cold. But I was not there. My name is Elsa. I am 26 years old and work as a nail technician. I met my husband Siegfried through a mutual acquaintance and we got married last year. Since we both had just started working and had little money, we decided to live with his parents to receive financial support. While Alistair was happy about the lively household, Violet didn't think much of it. This was partly due to Alistair and Siegfried's actions. Every time I cleaned up the dishes after meals, Siegfried would say, "Oh, I'll take care of it. Elsa, why don't you go take a bath?" And when I was carrying heavy loads, Alistair would help out. "Oh, Elsa, that's dangerous. I'll carry it for you." Violet didn't like that I was being pampered by Alistair and Siegfried. Whenever we were alone, she would always complain. "Must be nice to be treated so kindly." Well, it will end in a week. After that, you'll have to do everything by yourself. Be prepared. Despite her words, it's been a year since we started living together, and it hasn't changed. Because of this, Violet's actions escalated. "You're the only outsider in this house. Yet, you're the most favored. I can't stand it. I don't see any gratitude for being allowed to live here. I'm sorry." Every day, while Alistair and Siegfried were kind to me, Violet would complain. At first, I discussed this with Siegfried, but he said he was treating Violet the same way. "I'm not particularly nice only to you. I treat Mom and Dad the same way." I also didn't think Siegfried was exceptionally nice to me. He seemed to treat everyone equally, but Violet overreacted. "When you and Alistair act kind to me, she always complains about it. Maybe she's just particularly aware of you. Well, eventually she'll stop." I hope so. I had suddenly moved into the house where the three of them lived. As their son's wife, no less. Violet probably wasn't used to living together yet. I thought it was understandable for her to take it out on me and believed that eventually, her mean behavior would stop. But as I ignored and let it pass, it escalated even further. At first, she only seemed to be in a bad mood when talking to Alistair or Siegfried. But lately, she's been getting angry over the smallest things.
Hey! You were just making tea carelessly, weren't you? Did you check the temperature properly?
No. Her yelling made me tense up.
This is why I can't stand uneducated women. Listen, don't make coffee carelessly with the electric kettle. When you cut corners, I end up embarrassed later. Oh, I heard the neighbor's daughter-in-law is so elite and beautiful, but our situation is just the worst.
Recently, she's been saying nasty things while looking me straight in the eye. And she doesn't hold back, even in front of Alistair or Siegfried. "Elsa, did you clean this room? It looks nice." "Thanks."
Oh, no. It's actually easier to clean a little every day, so it's really nothing.
When Alistair praised me, thinking I was beaming with pride, she would cut in with a snide remark. Really, you haven't done much. Look, there's dust here. See, my hand is all black. You just clean the visible parts and get praised. How nice for you. It doesn't matter. We'll do a big clean together at the end of the year. Alistair defended me from her heartless words. This only made her scowl more and complain. My in-laws arguing about me has become more frequent, and the house is tense.
I'll clean it properly now, so you two can relax and enjoy your tea.
Every day, I would act as a mediator, resolving the issues one by one. One day, we were having dinner together, and Siegfried started talking about his plans for next week. From Thursday to Sunday afternoon next week, there's a company ski trip. I'll bring back some souvenirs. Alistair, surprised, added,
Oh, what a coincidence. I also have a golf outing with my friends from Friday to Sunday morning next week.
Hearing this, Violet seemed unhappy about being alone with me next week and said,
If everyone's gone, maybe I should take a trip too.
Sounds good. It's important to refresh yourself. Elsa, what about you? When Siegfried asked me, I thought about going on a trip too, but worried about her making snide comments about where I'd get the money, I chose to stay home.
Well, I'll stay and look after the house.
When I said that, Violet smirked. If I had said I would go on a trip too, she would have openly shown her displeasure. I felt relieved that I chose to stay, but little did I know this decision would lead to a terrible ordeal. Unaware of this, I naively thought about having some luxurious meals while they were away. A few days later, she decided to go on a trip from Friday to Monday evening.
I'm looking forward to a hot spring trip with my friends after so long.
She hummed as she packed her travel bag. Siegfried and Alistair also began their preparations. Where did I put my golf bag?
If it's golf-related, I saw it in the basement earlier. I'll help you carry it.
So we went to the basement. It was freezing there without any heating. Quickly, we started working to bring the golf equipment upstairs. Thanks, Elsa. I couldn't have done it alone in this cold.
Oh, no problem. Just let me know if you need help with anything else.
After helping Alistair, I also finished helping Siegfried. Sorry. Can you get my pajamas and clothes ready for the next 3 days?
Sure.
Everyone was rushing around the house, repeatedly grabbing necessary items for the trip. The atmosphere was hectic as we moved around busily. Finally, it seemed like we had managed to finish all the preparations for the trip, and everyone sighed in relief in the living room. Phew, getting ready for a trip is so exhausting. Starting tomorrow, Siegfried, Alistair, and then Violet will each go on their respective trips. We decided to have a final meal together and made hot pot. The next day, Siegfried left for his company trip. I'm leaving. If anything happens, call me immediately. Siegfried left the house, looking worried about me. Early the following morning, while everyone else was still asleep, Alistair also left. Violet was the last to leave, but until then, it was just the two of us for the first time in a while. I wondered if she would say something to me before her trip. Cautiously, I waited until Violet left the house. After finishing breakfast, Violet called me into the kitchen.
This is the portable stove we used when we all had hot pot last time. It's too big to store in the kitchen, so could you take it back to the basement?
Expecting a sarcastic remark, I was surprised by the simple request. Relieved, I agreed to her request.
Understood. I'll take it down now since I have some time.
Thanks. Violet smiled slightly at me, raising the corners of her mouth. It was unusual, but I guessed she was in high spirits because of the upcoming trip. Without realizing Violet was following me, I carried the portable stove to the basement and, at that moment, the basement door slammed shut.
What?
I initially thought the wind had closed the door and didn't worry as I walked towards it. Then I heard the sound of the lock turning. The door handle wouldn't budge when I tried to open it.
What?
Hearing my panicked voice, Violet started giggling from the other side of the door. Hee hee. I'm going on my trip now.
What? Wait. Please open the door.
Even though I knocked hard, I could only hear the sound of Violet walking away. My face turned pale. I heard the front door open and then close as she locked it. It seemed I was completely locked in.
It's so cold. What should I do?
The basement was freezing. The living room was always warm, with the heater on, so I was in light clothing. I thought about using the portable stove to warm up, but the risk of a fire made me hesitate. I never imagined I would be locked in here, so I had left my phone in the living room. The earliest to return would be Alistair, but even that was in 3 days. I couldn't go to the bathroom, and the cold was draining my energy. I wondered how I would survive in this room until everyone came back. Imagining the worst, tears started to flow. But crying wouldn't change anything. I desperately searched the basement for anything that could help me survive. I found some canned tuna and instant food. They were likely stocked for emergencies like earthquakes or disasters. I ate them to regain some energy. There were also camping supplies Siegfried had bought during his brief camping phase. While the phase had passed quickly, leaving only a tent and a folding chair in the basement, the chair at least helped keep me off the cold floor. I tried to make the best of what was available to create a more comfortable space, but it was challenging. In the end, all I found useful were the chair and the instant food. I had no idea what time it was. Curled up in a small ball on the chair, I heard a sound coming from the front door.
Huh?
At first, I thought it was a hallucination brought on by the cold. But I kept hearing someone rummaging around, as if they had come home. If it was Violet, I would be in trouble, but I hoped it was Alistair or Siegfried and yelled out.
Help me!
When I shouted, the rummaging stopped, and it felt like they were listening to my voice, so I called for help again. Then the footsteps grew louder, and I heard someone frantically trying to unlock the door. When the basement door opened, the person probably didn't expect to find me there. Whoa! I thought I heard a voice, but I didn't expect anyone to actually be here. But anyway, why are you in a place like this? It was Alistair who had come home. The moment the basement door opened, tears of relief streamed down my face. Let's talk in the living room for now. It's cold here, come on up quickly. In the warm living room after several hours, I collapsed in relief.
I thought I was going to be stuck there for 3 days. I'm so glad you came, Alistair. Thank you so much. You're my lifesaver.
I thanked him through my tears, and Alistair made me some hot cocoa while he explained. It was really just by chance that I came back. There was a golf event, and I forgot my golf shoes. I rushed back to get them. Everyone said rentals would be fine, but I insisted on my favorite ones to get my best score, so I came back for them. Because Alistair forgot his shoes, I was saved. I guess I was lucky. So, why were you in there? And how did the door get locked from the outside? Alistair seemed to realize something as he asked the question.
Did Violet do this?
At his words, I shivered and couldn't hide the truth. Alistair put his head in his hands. I see. He took out his phone and made a call. I thought he might be calling Violet, so I watched closely. But he was calling his golf buddies. Hey, sorry, there's been an emergency. so I won't be able to join you for the trip. I'll make it up to you next time, I promise. Hearing this, I felt a surge of guilt along with surprise.
What? No, it's okay. Alistair, you should go back.
I said while he was still on the phone, but he went ahead and canceled anyway. After hanging up, I apologized again. I'm sorry. Your important trip got ruined because of me. Alistair spoke gently to me.
I can go golfing anytime. I'm about to retire soon anyway.
He even cracked a joke to lighten the mood. He was trying to ease my guilt.
More importantly, can you tell me exactly what happened?
He asked, and I explained the morning's events in detail. Then, as soon as I put away the portable stove, the door was locked. I was in the basement for about 3 hours.
3 hours in that cold place.
Alistair sympathized with my feelings and was angry for me.
But thanks to you, it was only 3 hours. If it weren't for you, everyone would have been back on Sunday.
Now, it's just a slightly chilling story. When I said that, Alistair shook his head. Elsa, we can't just brush this off so easily. Something dangerous could have happened to you. Alistair felt that if they let this slide, Violet might do something even bolder next time. He decided to take action. All right, when Violet comes back.
What? Are you sure?
I was shocked by Alistair's determined words. But looking into his eyes, I could see he was serious.
Understood. If anything happens, I'll be on your side.
With that, I decided to fully support Alistair. I contacted Siegfried, who was on a company trip, to tell him what had happened today.
I'll come back right away.
But since Violet wouldn't be back until Sunday, I told him to enjoy his trip. I didn't want to disrupt both Alistair's and Siegfried's plans just for me. When I conveyed this, he reluctantly agreed. Got it. I'll hurry back as soon as it's over.
Yeah. Thanks.
I also discussed with Siegfried how we would proceed. When I shared Alistair's plan, he agreed without hesitation. Yeah. I agree with Dad. Mom won't reflect on her actions otherwise. Everyone except Violet was preparing behind the scenes for her return. Sunday evening arrived in no time.
Ah, that was fun.
Violet came back, singing happily. We were hiding, so she thought she was alone at home. Well, let's open it up for her.
She's heading there.
Violet went towards the basement. She unlocked and opened the door. Violet probably expected to find me there, shivering and blue from the cold. But no one was there.
What? Where did she go?
As Violet shouted, we spoke from behind her.
We're right here.
Violet spun around quickly. When she saw Alistair and Siegfried glaring at her, she immediately understood that they knew everything.
What? Are you still taking the side of this useless wife? She's not a useless wife. She's Elsa. And it's not about taking sides. Violet, you're completely in the wrong. Apologize now.
Alistair's tone was lower than usual. He was clearly very angry.
Locking her up for 3 days is unthinkable. It's insane.
Siegfried joined in to back up Alistair. Violet, frustrated by their constant support for me, retorted. Yes. Sorry.
I thought you had gone out too and accidentally locked the door. It wasn't on purpose.
Violet tried to get away with a half-hearted apology. There was no way I would accept such an apology, and neither would Alistair or Siegfried. Mom, apologize properly. We gave her another chance, but Violet, feeling disrespected by Siegfried, responded even more defiantly.
I already did. I don't need to repeat it over and over.
She turned her back on us. Usually, Siegfried or Alistair would sigh and give in at this point. Violet thought this time would be no different. But Alistair had made up his mind on what to say before Violet returned. I can't put up with your behavior any longer. Let's get a divorce. At those words, Violet immediately turned back. Violet widened her eyes and stared at Alistair, asking him,
Why? This is a problem between Elsa and me. It has nothing to do with you, Alistair. And just so you know, threatening divorce won't work.
No, I've been thinking about it for a while.
But we've been together for decades, and the affection I had for you made it hard to take the step.
However, after this incident, I can clearly say it. I don't want to live with you anymore. I don't even want to think of you as family. After he finished speaking, no one said a word, and only the sound of the air conditioner filled the silence. Violet didn't respond immediately, likely because she realized that Alistair's words were his true feelings. Her face was pale, and she looked like she might collapse at any moment. So that's it.
I got the divorce papers from the city hall yesterday, and I've already filled out my part.
We're going to submit them right away. As the reality of the divorce sank in, Violet's breathing became erratic. She pinched herself, hoping this was a nightmare rather than reality.
No, you think I'm going to get divorced? Because of this woman.
She glared at me, pointing as she shouted. But Siegfried and Alistair quickly defended me.
That's what I couldn't stand. If you had sincerely apologized, I might have reconsidered.
Hinting there might have been a chance, Violet immediately turned to apologize to me. I'm sorry. I went too far with my mean behavior. I'll be careful from now on. Will you forgive me? She tried to earn forgiveness with her quick change of attitude. Thinking she really didn't want a divorce that badly, I expressed my opinion. It doesn't sound like a genuine apology. I can't accept it like this. Hearing this, Violet's face contorted with anger. But noticing Alistair watching, she quickly snapped back to her senses. What are you saying? I'm genuinely apologizing. She forced a smile at me. But it was clear she wasn't smiling inside. Seeing through her, Alistair spoke up.
Enough already. No matter how much you apologize now, no one will believe it's sincere. It only leaves a sense of distrust.
Alistair cut off even her attempt to apologize, leaving divorce as the only option. Violet finally collapsed to her knees and cried.
Why does everyone treat me so harshly? Men just prefer younger women, don't they?
Crying, she lamented why she was the only one not being defended. Alistair and Siegfried looked at her with exasperation.
Just so you know, Mom, you're the one who started this by bad-mouthing Elsa and doing awful things. If you hadn't done anything to Elsa, we wouldn't have needed to defend her.
Alistair nodded in agreement with Siegfried's calm remark. Violet now regretted her actions that led to this situation. Then we moved to the living room and surrounded Violet to make her sign the divorce papers. Her hands trembled, and the writing on the divorce papers was barely legible. After signing, Alistair immediately headed to the city hall. All right, Siegfried, take care of things while I'm at the city hall. With that request, Siegfried spoke to Violet.
Okay, Mom, let's pack up your things.
Siegfried started packing Violet's belongings into boxes he'd previously bought from the supermarket.
Mom, do you want to go back to your parents' house for now?
He even asked about the shipping address, determined to make her leave. Violet could only stand there, mouth agape, as Siegfried acted mercilessly. By the time Alistair returned home, the packing into boxes was finished, and they had loaded the car and taken the boxes to the post office. Alistair and Siegfried went to the post office together, leaving just Violet and me at the house.
Thank you for everything, even if it was just for a short while.
I offered a ceremonial thank you, but Violet, still clearly angry, muttered,
I will never forgive you.
After that, we stopped talking. No matter how angry Violet was, I knew I wasn't wrong. I stood my ground, unafraid of Violet's anger. As the two were about to return, Violet seemed to decide to go back to her parents' house. I heard her sniffling, but my feelings remained unchanged as I watched her leave. When Alistair and Siegfried returned, I told them Violet had left, and they seemed relieved. Elsa, I'm really sorry for what Violet put you through.
No, it's fine, Alistair. Thank you again.
I nodded to Alistair, who waved his hand, looking embarrassed. I'm the one who should apologize for my ex-wife scaring you. I'm really sorry. Then Alistair offered. Now that I'm single, I could give this house to Siegfried and you. Or if you prefer, I can help with renting an apartment. He was suggesting options for our future living arrangements. Siegfried, considerate as always, left the choice to me.
Actually,
I shared my wishes regarding our living situation, and both Alistair and Siegfried agreed without any objections. Several years passed, and we had a child, who is now 2 years old. When asked about our living arrangements, I was actually pregnant. Even Siegfried didn't know until I revealed it then. I expressed my desire.
I want to continue living here with Alistair. With a new member in the family, I hope to create many happy memories together.
Hearing this, both Alistair and Siegfried's faces lit up with joy. That sounds great.
Dad will have fun living with his grandchild too. Well, I guess I won't have time for golf anymore.
Alistair was overjoyed at having a grandchild. Now, he adores the child every day. Seeing Siegfried and Alistair playing with our child often made me think. Poor Violet, she doesn't even know she has a grandchild. We had decided not to inform her, as it would only cause trouble. Violet was forcibly sent back to her parents and was severely scolded. Even they couldn't believe she had angered the usually gentle Alistair so much. Violet had low credibility even in her own family. With no one to trust, she would likely lead a miserable life from now on. Having lived off Alistair's earnings, she now had to fend for herself at her parents' home. Her parents, living on a pension, couldn't afford to support her. After decades as a housewife, Violet had to find her arrogant attitude and demands for a higher wage during interviews made it difficult for her to hold a job. Lacking work experience, she would now face the harsh realities of society. Regretting her past behavior towards me, Violet would live each day in regret. Thinking about it gave me a sense of relief. I soon forgot my anger and even Violet's existence, enjoying my life now. Rather than clinging to past grievances like Violet, it's far better to wish for future happiness. Watching our child grow, I will continue living happily with Alistair and Siegfried.